Hey everyone, welcome back to Living Beyond the Invisible, A Walk with Heather, the podcast that sheds light on the realities of living with invisible disabilities. I'm your host, Heather, and this week's episode is called Behind the Influencers Filter. Now, we're not talking about judgment or perfection today. We're talking about honesty, nutrition, and the mental and physical consequences of trusting people who don't always tell the truth about how they got to where they are. So grab your coffee, maybe don't add 5 pumps of sugar-free syrup though, and let's get into it. We've all seen the weight loss transformation post. You know the ones, dramatic before and after photos, inspiring captions, and promises of effortless progress. And at first glance, it is pretty dang motivational. But what you're seeing usually isn't the full story. Most times, it's not even close to the full story or the true story. Many influencers only show the highlight reel. They leave out the hunger, the relapses, the plastic surgery, or the medications that played a role. Some even stage before photos to look more dramatic using bad lighting, a slouched posture, you name it, they use it. Folks, that's not inspiration. That is flat out manipulation. And the worst part is you, the person sitting at home, eating real food and moving your body consistently. You might feel like a failure because your results don't look like theirs. But my friend, you are not failing. You're just being misled. So let's start off by talking about what these influencers often recommend to eat. They recommend protein bars, chips, shakes, sugar-free everything, and low-carb wraps. And before you say it, but Heather, you use some of these products too. Yeah, I do. I do use these products. But not every day. There has to be a balance. They can be a helpful tool, especially when you're busy and trying to hit your macros. But again, the thing is, they aren't meant to replace real food. They're meant to help supplement real food. Some of the most viral weight loss meals out there are basically just processed chemicals. I've seen influencers pour sugar-free syrup over everything from eggs to cucumbers. One influencer puts several flavors of sugar-free syrup in her coffee and then adds stevia or another sugar substitute on top of that. Generally, it is roughly 6 to 8 tablespoons of artificial sweetener, from sugar-free syrups to the sugar alternatives. Not only is that way too sweet, but it's also not at all healthy. That's just chemical coffee, my friend, and who wants that? Look, sugar-free syrups and sweeteners can be helpful in moderation, but they're not miracle ingredients. When you use them constantly, your body might respond with digestive issues, cravings, or increased hunger because you're tricking your taste buds without giving your body the nutrition it needs. And those wraps and bars, they are processed. Now, they are still a better option than junk food or fast food, but they aren't as good for you as whole natural foods like chicken breast, turkey breast, lean cuts of meat, fresh veggies, or fresh fruit. Your body thrives on whole protein-rich foods. Protein from real food supports fullness, lean muscle, and metabolism. It fuels your body in a way a candy bar with 12 grams of sugar just can't. So yes, have the protein chips. Enjoy the protein bar. Add the low carb wrap. Just remember, they're tools. not the foundation. So why do some influencers lie or exaggerate about how they lost the weight? Well, when your income depends on maintaining a certain image, there's an incentive to keep up the illusion, even if it's fake. Fast results sell. Extreme routines get clicks. There's one influencer in particular, I'm not naming names, but if you've seen the Catfish episode, the show that exposes people pretending to be someone they're not, you're probably going to know who I mean. If you know, you know. This person claims to have lost over 200 pounds, which is awesome. I am not taking that away from her. And she has built a huge following. She now shares recipes and weight loss advice. But here's the problem. Anyone who dares question her about her actual food intake, any surgery she may have had, ingredients, or even just politely asks for clarity, they get blocked instantly. Y'all, that's not transparency. That's damage control. Worse, the foods she promotes are packed with sugar-free syrups, processed protein products, carbs, and artificial sweeteners. It's flashy, it's colorful, but it's not nourishing. It's also usually not very appealing visually. It's not something a dietitian would recommend. And it teaches people that if they just follow her strange artificial food map, they'll magically lose weight. Don't get me wrong, our bodies need carbs for sure, but her meals are always packed full of chemicals and carbs with hardly ever any fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, or lean proteins. There is no balance to her meals. And in building a better overall health, you must have balance. You should focus on getting higher amounts of protein to help you build muscle and stay fuller longer. Any dietitian will likely tell you that. But many people who follow her and try her way, they don't end up feeling better. They end up feeling worse. They feel tired, bloated, frustrated, and confused. A few have even been seriously hurt by following the crap she promotes. This influencer doesn't understand how to eat for real health, and yet she's teaching thousands of vulnerable people what to do. That's not just dishonest, that's downright dangerous. So let's recenter for a minute. Because the truth is, healthy weight loss is possible, and it's not as complicated or flashy as social media makes it seem. Here's what actually matters. Eat real whole foods the majority of the time. Prioritize protein from meat, eggs, yogurt, tofu, beans, and seafood. Limit carbs, especially refined ones, but don't fear fruit or fiber-rich vegetables. Use those protein bars, low-carb wraps, and sugar-free products as supplements, not staples. Be consistent, not perfect. Progress over perfection every single day. Your body doesn't care about your follower count. It doesn't need a viral recipe to thrive. It needs balance, it needs time, and it needs genuine kindness from you. A chicken breast and steamed broccoli might not rack up the likes, but they will fuel you better than sugar-free cake topped with caramel-flavored syrup and whipped air. And listen, don't fall into the all-or-nothing trap. If you had a sugar-filled dessert today, that's fine. Just make your next meal full of whole foods. Keep building the foundation, one choice at a time. And remember the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, eat healthy foods. 20% of the time, it's okay to eat things that aren't so healthy. This is one thing that I am still trying to remember consistently. So we've discussed what bad influencers do. So now let me give you a quick list of red flags to help you spot a potentially misleading influencer. They promise rapid results with minimal effort. They post endless photos of themselves but rarely show full, consistent meals. They're obsessed with sugar-free and processed everything and barely touch whole food. They block anyone who asks hard questions or they don't like questions they don't like. They use filters or editing to hide imperfections to mask weight gain. They lie about maintaining and say they haven't gained weight when their unfiltered photos tell a different story. They push products over real strategies. They never talk about setbacks, mental health, or long-term habits. They are constantly making videos or posts about how people are so unkind, but are the ones in the comments bullying people for asking genuine questions. That's not a good weight loss influencer, folks. That's someone who is being a bully and only posting to make money, not help others, even though they constantly say they want to help others. Unfollow those people, my friends. Protect your peace. You deserve better. And I know you're going to ask, but Heather, aren't you building a platform as a weight loss influencer? And my answer to that is yes and no. I'm not really trying to influence anyone with my page. Do I want to someday monetize the page? Yeah, sure I do. But I've never lied about or hidden that fact. I also don't consider myself an influencer. I prefer content creator because I'm creating content and sharing my experiences, the good and the bad. I mean, I share it all on my page, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. Just last week, I made a post to show my measurement progress, and I posted non-filtered, non-edited photos of myself. I am still very overweight, so it was super scary posting those. But I did it anyway. Why? Because that's what honesty looks like. Unlike the influencer I spoke about in this episode, when I say I want to help others, I truly mean that with all of my heart. At this point, you're probably wondering what this has to do with living with invisible disabilities. So I want to take a minute to talk about why this is a serious topic for those of us living with invisible disabilities. When you live with an illness like ours that is invisible, your relationship with food, energy, and your body is already more complex than most. You might need to avoid certain ingredients. Your metabolism might be impacted by meds. Your ability to exercise can vary from day to day, and your fatigue, it's not laziness, it's real. If you've followed me for any amount of time, you know that I struggle every single day. There are days that I can barely move, and there are other days where I have all the energy. That's what it's like to live with an invisible disability most of the time. So imagine being told by a perky influencer who claims to have figured it all out that you're just not trying hard enough. Or worse, that if you just eat sugar-free syrup and low-carb bread all day, you'd feel amazing too. It's toxic, it's dismissive, and it's downright dangerous. People with invisible disabilities are more vulnerable to disordered eating, food restriction, and comparison culture because they're often searching for control in bodies that feel out of sync. When an influencer promotes a diet that ignores the needs of complex, disabled bodies, they're not offering hope, they're selling harm. You deserve compassionate nutrition, not copy-paste diet plans from someone who blocks anyone who challenges her. So here's the big takeaway. Weight loss doesn't need to be trendy to be effective. It needs to be rooted in reality. Yes, you can use some processed products. I do. I've admitted that. But whole food, protein, real nutrition, and balance will always win over gimmicks. Be wary of influencers who silence criticism, who claim to have all of the answers, or who wrap disordered eating in a bow and call it a meal plan. You deserve the truth. You deserve health. You deserve a life that isn't ruled by what a stranger on the internet eats for breakfast. Thank you so much for joining me today on Living Beyond the Invisible, A Walk with Heather. If you'd like to connect or learn more about the podcast, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Living Beyond the Invisible, A Walk with Heather. I'll have those linked along with resources and references from today's episode in the show notes. I'm Heather, and until next time, take care of yourself and always remember, some of the bravest battles we fight are the ones no one else can see.